Chavez, only on GTMRadio.com.
Welcome, everyone. This is Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. I'm Christina George, along with my co-host, Renee Chavez. You there, Renee?
Yes, I am.
And, of course, we have an absolute amazing show again for you tonight. So, we have talked a lot of times about, with contactees, abductees, on this show and our other shows. We've talked about the connection that we've been seeing within, the field, paranormal, as well as the UFOs, and aliens. Hello? Are we still on? Hello?
I'm hearing voices.
Are you there?
I'm going to go ahead and call him back, and I'm so sorry.
Okay, no problem.
We're hearing voices.
Hey, you know what? See, you start bringing all this stuff together and look at the kind of activity we get already so far. Jeez.
Yeah,
everybody knows tonight, my name is Bob.
Yep, Bob.
It's one of those days, yeah. I'm not Christina George anymore. That's not me. Bob. I like that name. But, hey, I'm
feeling Indian dinner. That's what I am right now.
Hey, that's an interesting alien dinner. Okay, that's a new one. Well, I hope that we get Willie on the show back real quick, because I'm telling you, again, Renee, you and I have talked about this, obviously, over the years, about the connection.
I'm back.
Hey, Willie, great. Well, here's our guest. Without any further ado, we'll go ahead and, chime in with our... Before we talk to him real quick, just want to, thank Willie Gibson for coming on. He's a shaman. He also has abilities to communicate with the spirit world. And I've been friends with him for a very long time. But something that I recently found out was that Willie has been a contactee for close to 50 years now. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit of everything, because I want to talk a little bit about the paranormal. I want to talk about, obviously, his interaction, being a contactee. But I also want to get his take on the actual connection between it all. And, we've always talked about this so many times here on the show, and what people's opinions are. So we want to thank everybody that is joining chat. We do want to let you know chat is open. I know we did say that it wasn't going to be open tonight, but we got it up and running, so feel free to go ahead and join in. So looks like we may be having a little bit of audio issues from chat, but we'll see if we can get everything going. Willie, are you there?
I'm here. We got, I lost you for a little bit, but that's nothing for me to happen every time I talk to UFOs. It happens all the time.
It does. Do you notice, because I know that on my other show, Paranormal Connections, every time I have somebody, on there and we're, talking about activity or they've got psychic abilities, the next thing you know, we start getting EVPs over the air where, the live listeners are hearing them and they're like, hey, what's that? Are you hearing this? And we go back and listen to the shows, and we get some very, very interesting things. Now, do you get that as well when you do interviews, say, on the paranormal?
Well, as far as the UFO thing goes, when I had my own radio show, which I went off the air about 6 weeks ago, I decided to take a break and just come on other people's shows and be a guest on their shows. It was about 3 months ago I was doing my show, and I had... the subject was a UFO show, and about an hour after I ended the show, I went in to get a glass of water in the kitchen, and I happened to see some bright lights coming up from behind my house, and I was watching it, and one light veered off one side, and another light veered off another side, and I realized it was two jets. And the middle light kept on going, so I watched it until I watched it go over the house, and I ran out to the front and looked out the front door, and it was a triangle. It was a triangle ship. It just kind of hovered over the house for just about 2 minutes, and then it just glided on away. It's almost like they knew, they were saying, well, we know you're talking about UFOs, and we just wanted to say hi. So that happens all the time with me.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. And your interaction, let's talk a little bit about you first before we even get into all this, because you go by Willie Windwalker Gibson, and you're actually you're Cherokee and Irish descent, and you're from Louisville, Kentucky. Been married 26 years. You're a supernatural consultant and an author. Boy, it just goes on, and you are part of the Soul Warriors as well as the Paranormal Clergy. So you've really been out there. You've been on TV, radio, all kinds of shows, and so usually talking about your ability to see and hear spirits. You do those the animal totem readings for people who are familiar with those, cleansings, blessings. You've even done weddings. So, but the fact that, again, through all of this, you've also been a contactee for close to 50 years, to me, it is just something amazing. And how did your first experience, like, how old were you, and what was your first experience, and what was it like?
I was 10 years old. It was the summertime. School was out, and I was out in the backyard playing by myself. I did that quite a lot because I was the type of kid that I was kind of heavy set, and I was born with, kind of like a gimpy leg, and, kids that really didn't want to play with me. Not even my own brothers and sisters, they would go out and play with their friends, and I was left by myself quite a bit, to play on my own, and I would have my imaginary friends that would come and talk to me, which I thought it was my imagination, but at that time, I had no way of knowing that was my spirit guides talking to me and keeping me company. Well, I was out in the backyard playing, spending time with myself and thinking and playing with my imaginary friends, and I have to look up in the sky. And this was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I seen this star, and I was watching it, and I watched it get closer and closer and closer until it was right over me, and it turned into a round thing with lights underneath of it. So I watched it, and all of a sudden there was a big flash of light, like you would see a camera going off. And the next thing I knew, I was standing out in my backyard, and it was getting dark. I mean, I went into the house and looked at the clock on the kitchen wall, and it was like 9:30. It was just starting to get dark, and my dad, he said, where you been? We've been looking all over for you. We couldn't find you any place. We were looking up and down the street. I was getting ready to call the police. Where were you? And I just told him I was out playing by myself, and I just lost track of time. And to this day, I never did tell my mom and dad that the experiences I was having. And after that, I went into my room and was laid there, and I felt kind of strange. Up until that time, I could hear spirits, but I noticed a few days after that, I started to see different colors, and so, I could see glowing things glow. I could see the energy coming off of them, and then I started seeing the people that were talking to me. I could see spirits form, and I could actually see them in the room with me. So when I had that experience, it must have did something to my aura or my energy, because I was able to see and hear, and not only hear spirits, but I could see them too. So that was my first experience. I couldn't remember what they looked like or anything at that time, but as time went on and I started having more experiences with them, the memories started coming back, and I can remember that first time of when it happened. I can remember I was on this table, and I can remember, these beings were humanoid-like. They were, tall and blonde, and the one I was talking to, he told me his name was Atom. I always thought, the spelling was A-T-I-M, but I always call him Adam, and but it was Atim. And then he would come back from time to time to see me, but I would have visits from other things too, like the blue grays, the little people with the big heads and the almond-shaped eyes, and I would, every so often, I'd look up and there would be a ship, or I'd be someplace like I remember one time I was the same age, and I went to visit my aunt out in the country, and I went for a walk in the woods with a friend of mine, and we come upon this clearing, and in this clearing, there was a ship landed there, and my friend was with me, and as you know, she was scared, and as something told me just to walk towards it. And when I walked towards it, I could see two little beings come from behind the ship. Well, when I seen that, the next thing I know, I'm waking up off on the ground, and my friend was laying beside of me too, and the ship was gone. So that was one instance too. So things like that I've always had missing time. I've seen different ships. I've seen the cylinders, the circular type of UFOs that look like orbs, but we call them the Pearl because my wife's seen them too, and she's also been abducted. So I woke up with IV marks on me, scrape marks on me, fingerprints on me. My wife has woke up with two black eyes with some kind of fluid coming out of her nose, blood all over her sheets, liquid on her sheets, things of that nature. So, yeah, I've had quite a bit of experience with it. It's ongoing. We're still having experiences.
Now, okay, so these experiences have they been experiences that have been very negative, positive? I mean, do you remember usually what's going on in these things?
I can remember one instance where I was on a table, and I can remember looking up and seeing these glass-looking things coming down with kind of like rods in them. I can remember having things on my ears, like earphones, it felt like vibrations coming through them. I don't know if they were giving me messages or what. Other than having the actual puncture wounds and scrapes and cuts and little bitty cuts and things like that, the experiences wasn't all that bad. But there's been a couple of times that these aren't from the humanoids. They're more or less from the little ones with the big eyes. The experience with them wasn't as pleasant as the ones with the humanoid ones.
Wow. Are you glad that you don't really have the memories of, what's happened to you? Because, I mean, obviously, if you're having liquid, coming out of your wife's nose, if you're having, blood on your sheets and your shirts, obviously there was some, testing and, and checking you out. And some people do remember when they have these kind of experiences, and it does seem to kind of traumatize them, even like when they're talking about it. So it doesn't seem like you have that. It seems like you have a different feel about it. I mean, not so much fear, but what is it that you over the years have you dealt with this?
Over the years, it seems like my memories are coming back to me. I don't know if they're allowing them to come back, but I'm starting to remember things like I can remember being in a cave, and in this cave with like cylinders, and in the cylinders there was like liquid with looked like some kind of humans in them. It looked almost like a laboratory, but it's almost like an underground. Well, it was an underground base probably, because there was like more than just a few of these little creatures walking around, and I can remember seeing like transportation things that didn't look like anything that we would have. It's almost like futuristic things, like little rail cars or something like that. There are networks underneath the Earth. I mean, there are bases underneath the Earth. There are bases under the oceans. They're just everywhere. And it got to a point where after, before I met my wife, growing up and having this happen when I was a kid and through my teenage years and things like that, it got to a point where it was like it got to be part of my life to where I wasn't scared. I was more scared of being in a car wreck or getting shot or stabbed or something like that than I was dealing with the aliens, because I come to a realization that there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, when they get ready to do something, they're going to do it. They have the means to do it. I've actually seen them putting my wife back to bed after taking her. I can, be just laying there. I couldn't move, but I could see what was going on, having her, being put back to bed. And one time they were bringing her back, and she woke up. and she told me, Willie, the reason I woke up, I had to pee. And, it just broke the concentration of whatever the holdover, and she was able to see them. I was laying in bed one night. I wasn't asleep, and the wall started glowing. And two creatures came out, looked at me, turned around, walked back into the wall, and the wall went back to its normal form. It was like a portal opened up in my bedroom. And I got up and checked the wall. It was, there was no trace, no burn marks or anything like that. So things like that, my wife and I had been in the car driving down the highway going someplace, and all of a sudden we'd be on a road going in the opposite direction, and we didn't know how we got there. Of course, I looked at my watch, and there would be, like 45 minutes to an hour went by that we couldn't account for, and we would be going in the other direction. And, we have had run-ins with, I guess you would say, men in black, because we were driving down the highway one morning. It was Sunday. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. There wasn't hardly any traffic on the road, and this black SUV pulls up beside me, tinted windows in it, and forced me off into a ditch. I've had my phone click. I've had mysterious phone calls. I've had vehicles come up and down my street that I never didn't belong there. I went to the store and look around. There would be these men in suits following me. I'd walk outside the store, and there'd be other dark vehicles, parked out. So, and then one of the reasons this was going on, back in '99, I got contacted by MUFON, and they had known my story of being, an abductee, and they wanted to know, would I become a section director and kind of counsel, contactees. So I started a support group at the library. We met once a month, and I had 30, 40 people show up at a time and tell me their story, and and want to know how to deal with it, who to contact, and how to make reports, and I had to shut that down because one time a gentleman walked into my the room and sat down, and you could tell he was wearing a suit, but I could tell by the cut of his hair he was military. And we were telling our stories, the people were telling their stories, and he raised his hand. He said, I'd like to show you something. I said, what? And he opens up a briefcase and pulls out a file, and he slides it over to me. He said, what do you think about this? I opened it up, and there was various ships in there, and they were writing in there. It looks like some kind of hieroglyphic type of things. And he said, what do you think about this? Well, my wife was sitting beside of me, and that particular day, she brought some of her stuff. She had been picking up, and then I said, open up your file, and we put them side by side, and it almost was the same type of writing. I said, what do you think about that? And he looked at me and said, how did you get these? I said, she got them. She just sat down and started drawing them. She was picking up something from somewhere, and he got pissed. He grabbed the file and put it back in his briefcase and walked out. And things started happening. People in the group started getting harassed, and I got word that one of my friends that was going to go to Washington to one of the hearings and tell about her stories about having children taken from her. She wound up dead. And after that happened, and I started getting these phone calls and getting run off the road and other different things happening, I decided just to back off the UFO thing for a while. I told Shaman that, we need to back off a little bit because people are starting to get killed, and I don't want anything to happen to you. So I kind of cooled it for about 10 years. And recently I just started talking about it because in a roundabout way I was sent word, you better keep your mouth shut and with what you're seeing and what's been going on with you. So, the last couple of years I've been really starting to talk about it, and, there's been a lot that's come out since then, so I think they've kind of backed off of it a little bit because a lot of stuff has come to light, and people are starting to realize things are out there that has been covered up.
Well, and that's exactly my point. There is so much that, people don't believe exists because they haven't had their own personal experience. And now we're seeing this shift, not only just in the paranormal field, but in all of the fields, where these things are making themselves more known, this phenomenon more known all the time, and more people are having, these personal experiences. The thing is, and after this, I want to let Renee chime in too. But right after this, we look at it and we're like, okay, these people are having it. Finally, people are starting to come out and want or feel safe enough to share their stories, including my co-host, because I knew him for many years. I knew his story. It didn't shock me. It didn't surprise me. I felt very, very connected with Renee right at the beginning, from the very beginning. And it was very interesting. It took him like 2 years to finally say, you know what, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm going to come up against a lot of controversy, I'm sure. Did you encounter that as well?
Oh, yeah. People are always saying, that I'm a nut or I'm a fake shaman and stuff like that. I've always been attacked, but people haven't walked in my shoes and seen what I've seen and done what I've done. And I know it's real. People that know me personally or has been real close to me know that it's real. And these people, I've noticed, try to bait me. They try to get me into a fight, over my heritage or saying, well, you're standing there lying. And just last week, somebody made a comment about me being a shaman that I was delusional, and unless I come from North Carolina, I'm not a real shaman. But, that to people like that, if you listen to them, what they're saying, they're the ones that are crazy, And I just tell people that try to say, I'll just tell them opposite. No, that person's trying to bait you into an argument, trying to get you into a fight to give them power. And I just tell them just to leave it alone, and they'll go away. And the people will see what kind of psychotic people they are. And I'm not going to fight with anybody because I've been I'm too old. I've been too much to debate with people that's saying, oh, you're fake. Well, fine, that's your opinion, But if they would see what I had to happen to me in the past, they would be, I don't think they could put up with it, especially the spiritual part that I've been through, the extraterrestrial part I've been through. I don't, if they would just see what I've been through, they would keep their mouth shut. I don't think they could go through it. I have an implant at the base of my neck. It's been there since I was 10 years old. No matter where I'm at, they find me. If I'm sick, really sick. In 1999, I was really critical sick, and I had to have a major surgery and have some intestines taken out. And, they come after I got out of the hospital the same day. They came and got me and took me aboard a ship, and they actually did, they checked me over good. They want to know, they looked for the incision. They mashed around on me. They flipped me here. They flipped me there. They put all kinds of machines on me. The next morning when I woke up, I felt worse going through that, and I did the real surgery, and wow. I told Sheila, I said, look what happened, and you could see the fingerprints and the bruises, and these weren't from, them taking blood at the hospital or anything like that. These were fresh things, and I couldn't move for almost 3 or 4 days after that. I could hardly get up out of bed. I was feeling good when I came home from the hospital. I was in the hospital 6 days. I came home, and I felt good, and I was sitting up and talking, and the next morning, it felt like I'd been in a car wreck.
Wow. 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 Renee, now, okay, everybody who listens to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond knows your story, okay? And, wow, isn't this an amazing story?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it can relate to a lot of stuff that he's talked about. About the undergrounds. I know about these large liquid bats that are having like humanoids in them. These are what he's describing. It sounds a lot like what's in Dulcian itself too, because it's a large complex. It's kind of like a large cylinder shape. So it's kind of circular way of walking around, and there's different levels on there.
Do we know, have there been any reportings, and both of you can chime in on this, have there been, reportings of other people, coming forth that have, rather than contact these abductees that has been to other underground facilities, because I know, like, when we've had, Debbie Tripp and Misha Johnson and all these people on, they all are kind of explaining the same type of location. So I'm wondering if they're all being either taken to one location because we know they're all over the place, or are these maybe built very similar in how they're made?
I believe that they're connected. I mean, they're all over. You can go from one state to another state underground. They have a railway system, that they travel. Like I said, it don't look like a regular railway system that we would have. It's more futuristic. I mean, it looks more like a bullet train or something that you would see over in Japan or something. I mean, They can go, they can be one state to another in a matter of minutes, and that's how fast these things are. And of course, they have the ships that could go, just not only outside the Earth's atmosphere, but they're interdimensional too. So I see that happen. I've seen them just pop out of nowhere, and pop back in. They're gone. It's like I said, the wall of my bedroom opened up, and they just walked in. So I can't sit around. People say, "Well, aren't you scared? Aren't you worried about?" I can't. There's too much going on in my personal life to worry about that, because there's nothing I could do about it. I mean, if they decide, say, "Hey, we're going to go down and get Willie today," and keep him for a couple hours, they will. And same thing with my wife. I mean, she's been seeing things since she was a small child too. And I asked Stanton Friedman about that one time. He said, "Well, you and her, for some reason, were put together for a reason. Being that you two were contactees and abductees, that's just too coincidental. They have to put you two together for a reason." And I said, "Okay, Dr. Freeman, I'll go along with that." So, I've talked to him several times about this.
Wow. And that is very interesting that, the two of you found each other, because most of the times, like when you get, couples together, especially if you're in these fields, or you're an experiencer or a contactee or an abductee, or you have abilities, it's hard enough to find somebody to just, find that you can connect with just on those, get past that level. But then for both of you to actually be contactees and find each other and go through this, together, it to me is very fascinating. And how did you and your wife, even meet?
Well, I was known as a security agent for a major hotel. Actually, I was the supervisor there, and she was on the housekeeping staff. And we would meet each other, when we come on shift and stuff like that. How are you? And how you going? At that time, I was taking extra shamanic training with another shaman, and I would go to, I guess you would call school, and then come to work all night. And sometimes I would be beat, and I would sit down in the chair and go to sleep. And one day she just woke me up and said, you fell asleep. She said, "What's going on with you?" And I said, "Well, I went over to a friend of mine's house tonight. We set for, that was trained to set for spirit, and we got into talking." She said, "Well, are you into psychicness?" I said, "Yeah, I can see and hear spirits." She said, "Well, I got something going on in my apartment. Would you mind coming over and checking it out?" So the next night I went over to her apartment. Sure enough, she had some activity going on in the apartment, and there was a couple of spirits in there. One was good. The lady that lived in the apartment before her died in that apartment. Her spirit was still there, and there was a diabolical influence that somehow attached itself to the apartment too, and it was causing her problems, and it was messing with her at nighttime. So I went in and tried to take care of it. And, this went on for several months. I even brought in another psychic to help, and we eventually had to do a clearing on her apartment. Well, we started seeing each other, and one thing led to another, and about 4 months later we got married. And that's how we met, in 1988, and we've been together ever since. And she accepts everything that's going on because she's got some abilities too, and she sings and drums, and she's been getting these images from. I guess you would say they've been sending her images because they look like hieroglyphics, and I'm able to sit down and try to go through them and try to decipher them. And it talks about a council that looks over the Earth. It's called the Intergalactic Council that kind of watches over us to keep some of these bad ones away from us. So there's a whole lot going on. A lot of things that you see on TV. A lot of the movies like Independence Day and Falling Skies and stuff like that. These writers are being manipulated to kind of write in some messages for people to watch out for things, and things could happen, like Independence Day. There could be an invasion, but I think that's been tried a few times, and I think it's been thwarted with some of the people that are looking over the Earth. I think the humanoids are patrolling the skies and trying to keep things away from us. There are different species of aliens that have been to Earth and are on Earth for different reasons. So they're kind of backing each other off. It's kind of like a Cold War situation going on with aliens with Earth right now. So we're worrying about Russia and China, and they have no idea that there's other things going on cosmically that they need to worry about too.
Well, that's an absolutely great point. And I mean, in your opinion, because now with your abilities, do you get any kind of information on things that are going to happen, or visions or anything like that, precog dreams about what's coming?
They have been giving me little snippets of here and there. Basically, they're concerned about the Earth itself and the pollution. And it's too, Christina. That's why a lot of ships are being seen more than ever. Yeah. I mean, it's commonly. I mean, people are now just go out in the backyard and look up, and something shoots across the sky. Oh, there's one. Or in the night sky, you can see them dance across the night sky. Oh, look at them. They're playing. People are getting to accept this thing more. The government might keep saying, well, everybody's in a panic, and religion, the religious people will be, it would attack the religious beliefs and things like that.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
If the government would just come out and say, hey, this has been going on, for 50, 60 years. We've been in contact with them. We've been working with them. They've been giving us technology, trying to give us technology to where we can protect ourselves from other beings that might try to harm us. People, we're not going to panic over it. They're going to say, well, it's about damn time, do you think we're crazy?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's silly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Renee and I have talks and stuff about this all the time, between us and within our group, because we do sky watches on a, monthly basis, if not more than that. And, we capture so much just ourselves. And it's funny that before, people never just looked up, and they didn't have the technology right on their hand like they do with the cell phone all the time. And now you're right, you can go on any day, and you can go on YouTube, and there will be, thousands of videos that have been uploaded for, new things. Renee, do you have any questions? Because, I just have so many, I could just go on forever, so.
It's more of a statement, because, you mentioned about us going on our sky watches, and the type of equipment that we use to even look what you can't see with the naked eye when you start using the night vision, and you'd be surprised how much you can actually see what's taking place out there just outside our own atmosphere. And even with NASA footage also showing a lot of things, which now is censored, but at a time that you were able to see so many different crafts out there of various different types of different sizes, from your small little orb type craft to like a mothership type craft. So it just just like you're saying, that there's so many different species out here that are here on the Earth. Some are working with, some are working with government. Some are kind of keeping a prime directive, staying away, kind of, situations. And and they are very much concerned about the planet. They're very concerned about how we treat ourselves too, as well as on the Earth.
Well, and they get a lot of, precious, minerals and things from our planet, from what I understand. So, I mean, if we, blow each other up, there goes everything that's so precious to them as well. Not only does it destroy us, but it destroys what they need. So I can see where we would be working, and I'm right with Willie. I think that the government just needs to come out and just say it. Enough people are turning around, they're waking up, and they're starting to question, and I think that they would accept it. Yes, it is going to turn religion upside down because, it's going to shake us, but I think that's actually what needs to be done, because I think that we've been so brainwashed into believing so many things that so many of us know are not reality. And we're, picked on, torn down for, the abilities we have, for our experiences, whatever it is. And, I love what Willie said, though, is that he's just too old to do this anymore. He's got his own things going, like who cares what people say. And it's interesting that when I talk to people and interview people who have, whether they have had experiences or abilities their whole life, it's usually always been that way. They've never really been believed until now, because it's a different time. But all those years, especially if you're older, you kind of it becomes very normal to you. So you're kind of whatever, till you have to, like Willie said, until you have to walk in my shoes, don't believe what you want. I don't care. I know what happened. So I think that's an amazing way to think about it. Now, Willie, we know that the government has been giving us little bits and pieces of information that comes out, new technology that we've seen way back in Star Trek and stuff like that. Now, and we also know that they've given us a lot of, alien technology, and that we have, back engineered, these different spacecraft, including these triangle ones, because they've been seen everywhere. Now, do you think that these crafts that we're seeing so often, the increase is because now there's more interaction, people are looking, or do you think that, our military is making all of these crafts as well, and we're capturing a picture or them in the air?
A lot of things we are seeing, like the triangles, they're back engineers. They're taking their practice flights, just like the one that I saw a few months ago, just hovered over the house. I think that I know for a fact that I'm being monitored and I'm being watched, and and they're watching. I mean, they're listening to what we're saying now, and there's no doubt about it. I've caught things happening in my phone before, and it's gotten to a point where they don't really care about what I got to say, because I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and they've done all they can do to me. Things are happening so much now that I'm not the only one saying things. I mean, there are other people saying the same things, even more. A lot of the back engineering is like the triangles. You've got actual saucers that we're manning. I mean, people don't realize. We've got the space shuttle, and and the astronauts take their little walks and things like that. But they don't realize we've actually had people on other planets. We've actually gone to other planets in saucers. I mean, we've done joint missions with aliens since the 50s, and we just haven't told anybody. And then a little bits and pieces of that's coming out now. You take the movie way back, the Steven Spielberg movie, Close Encounters. At the end of the movie where the people went up in the ship, for a while. I mean, that actually took place. back in the 60s, late 60s, late 50s, early 60s, the rumor of Eisenhower meeting with the aliens, that really happened. We've made deals with the aliens for years for their technology, and they've been allowed to come and get us and experiment with us, and the breeding part of it, and the genetic, the gene, working on our genes and things like that. That's been going on for centuries. Aliens have been coming and visiting Native Americans. Native Americans have alien DNA because they've been. I guess the humans, extraterrestrials, mated with the aliens, and that's why a lot of the Native American cultures, is talk about the star people coming and living among them. So there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of the alien DNA has been introduced into the Native Americans today. That's why a lot of Native Americans are very, very spiritual and has gifts. Just about every Native American I've ever met has some kind of ability. Well, everybody's got the ability if they open it up, but the Native Americans just more spiritual about it. I mean, they're more open about it, about being with the star people and learning stuff from the star people. So, it's been, a lot of this has been going on for years. A lot of rumor is actually fact. Like I said, with Eisenhower meeting with the aliens and the Roswell crash in '47, where it was kept quiet. That's where they really started getting into communicating with the aliens and making these deals for all this technology.
Wow. Well, and I, again, agree with, it's so nice and refreshing, to always talk with other people who are on the same mindset, and they so get this. And where do you, with the contact that you've had, the information that you've been given, do you think that, they're going to finally just show themselves, and why aren't they coming down, like people expect? Because they think most people think disclosure is going to be that, this alien ship is going to land on the White House lawn, and then they're going to walk out, and, it's going to be announced on TV, and it'll be all over CNN and everything. But, I feel that absolutely people are, being brainwashed if they think that's going to happen, because disclosure's already here. Disclosure is happening every single day. It's just now, we're not so much in denial, it's the government trying to keep us in denial. So do you think that, if we do, have some kind of like mass landing or something, do you think that it's actually going to be, these other alien races, or do you think that it's going to be our government to try to scare the hell out of us?
If you notice, Christina, you see on line all the time all the conferences that's going on with the UFO conferences and the alien conferences, and of course I'm a member of Starborn Support too with the Healing Sisters, and we've been communicating for 10, 12 years now, and they've been communicating quite a bit with the aliens too, and a lot of us contactees for some reason have been given some kind of message, that's embedded in us. And there are, I wouldn't hesitate, there are millions of us out here just waiting for the right message to come across, and then I think it's going to be coming through to the people. The people is going to tell the government or the powers that be that, this is going to happen. We're all together here. You meet us at a certain site, at a certain time, and these different areas. There's going to be a few thousand of us here, and we're going to have some friends land, and we're going to have a powwow, and that's how it's going to happen. There's going to be several different places, all over the world. Thousands of landings with thousands of people standing there to where they can't cover it up. And it's going to be televised, and and when it happens, and the aliens come out, and their ambassadors, which are us, that has been contacted out there to help the other people of the world to understand what's going on, and that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to be.
Right. Well, that would be kind of amazing to have it done like that, I think. If it happens like that. I'm just worrying that with all these, we see all these FEMA camps, we see all of the, tanks being brought in, we see all of these things happening around us. These FEMA camps are now staffed. They, have food in them. I mean, they are fully ready to go. And I start seeing like all of the UFO and alien movies that they're putting out there. Like almost every single one of them is like where they're coming to all kill us, and I know something big is coming, but it's almost like I feel like something will happen and they'll try to like just scare the hell out of us and get us to all go to these camps on our own, saying hey, they're created to protect you and you can go in there, and then we're going to be stuck in there. It'll be like it wasn't even that way, because with all these the reverse technology and back engineered and then the actual alien craft. Like, how do we, as, humans, know the difference? Because we are all told that these things don't even exist, period.
Well, it's just like I said, Christina, you've got the people that's already been contacted, and when the right time comes, they'll all come together, and no matter what the government says, I mean, like I said, we're kind of ambassadors, and as far as the UFOs being attacked or anything like that when they begin to land, that's not going to be a problem. They have the technology where they can neutralize anything we have. We're not going to have a chance to, the government's not going to have a chance to attack, and destroy anything. I mean, if they want to land and they want to put their, and talk, they're going to do it without having any problem. It's just like the old movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still with Michael Rennie, and Gort comes out and they start firing and he neutralizes everything at one time. That's exactly what could happen. And that was just another message too that was sent. I mean, you can fire anything you want to. Now, UFOs have been shot down. I don't know how they've done it. I don't know if it was a accident or whatever. But there's been quite a bit of crashes, and I think a lot of that has to do with vibrational things when they come into our atmosphere and they come into our energy. Sometimes the UFOs can't jive with what we got. I mean, these UFOs are run by magnetic fields, and sometimes they might break and then fall. I mean, it's just like they're able to draw from our magnetic fields, and sometimes they might, when they enter our atmosphere or our dimension, sometimes they might bounce a certain way or whatever and crash. And that gives us, the government, enough chance to, claim some, bodies and UFO parts and stuff like that. That's what happens. I don't think we've actually ever shot anything down. I think it's been accidents by them trying to get into our space and try to, coexist. That's what's happened in some of the crashes, I believe.
Right, and I do remember, I do have a good friend who was a walk-in, and her story, she was explaining that, they fly these things, basically putting their hands over this control panel, and there was a lightning storm which caused, her to turn away, and it made it end up crashing. Now, Renee, I mean, your story, again, which was so interesting, is that here, this friend of mine who had given me all this information very privately and then finally went out, publicly and was kind of just torn apart. I then meet you and find out that you know all about this as well, because you are also walking, and your recovery craft, were sent to try to recover them, correct?
To recover them, right.
And what happened to you? I mean, were you guys shot down, or was it weather, or how did that work?
We were actually shot down, and it was actually by a weapon that shouldn't have been around. at that time either. It was 1948. And after being brought down, several of us were taken into these covered trucks. Some of us had died and some were still alive. And they took us to an undisclosed area, which was, we know now was Area 51, and taken down below. And we were kept there for years, and I was there until 68. So.
Yeah, and trying to escape.
Yeah.
They took you out, and then you end up here in a whole nother, different environment.
I was talking to you, chatting in the chat room too about that incident, and when I was basically when my spirit had left my body there after being shot, I was led by other, spirit beings, I guess, which led me to this body. They knew exactly where to put me. So, and I got a little hesitant and kind of, really upset about the whole ordeal. It's like, I've been treated badly by humans, and now you're sticking me in a human to live with humans. Are you nuts?
Right. Right.
Kind of thing. I just had this horrible, anger toward all humans. But then, at that point, there was a point where they had to erase that part of my memory and allow me to grow normally as a human, learning about, the compassion, learn about, that not all humans are merciless and killers and so forth. And so I had to, take baby steps literally, learning what it is to be human, learn how to speak and walk among everybody, and through the years, certain snippets of memory was coming back. I kept getting those flashbacks through my teen years. And then as I got older and got married, more memories just started popping up, and the more connection of out there, I started to pick up from, and I started writing in this language. I would wake up in the middle of the night speaking this language. And then when I actually got to the regression, then that just became like a big old floodgate. So then I started remembering every bit of it. Even to the point where, remembering how I died here, but that anger was no longer there, because I also remembered that there was a few people that used to bring me food, down below, that treated me pretty decently, that they actually cared. They regretted having me be down there. So I started looking at different aspects of human life. And I was told that we'll meet others that are just like me. And I just felt very surprised that, the same person that you were talking about, are the ones I've been looking for. Now, she's alive, in a different body. And there's a couple of others that out there are down here too. And then coming to meet you, how strange is that too? I knew that I would find somebody. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but it happened, and things, it's just like a time capsule when certain things open up for a specific time when I'm supposed to meet certain people. So, yeah.
Wow. Here you obviously haven't heard his whole story, but, a small portion of it. What are your thoughts on this?
You mean aliens and human bodies?
Mm-hmm. The whole walk-in phenomenon.
I know that it's possible, because I've met a couple of walk-ins in my journeys too, and I know it could be done in spirit. I know a lot of spirits. It's not exactly a possession. It's just a spirit that takes a body that might be near death, and all of a sudden they get well. And the next thing you know, they have memories of somebody else, and I've seen that happen before, so, it's possible.
Right, I have too, and you hear it sometimes with children that they, will know information about, our solar system and things that a lot of times the scientists have just recently, discovered. And they can, tell you stuff that, most children their age would have no absolute, any kind of memory or education on any of this stuff. So very, very, interesting phenomena. Somebody in chat, Claire, we were talking about, having an actual where they we have a bunch of alien ships arrive. And she said something really, really interesting, and I kind of agreed, and it's been my feeling. She says, I don't know, I think that if they wanted to go all Independence Day on us, they would have. Some people say they have beautiful experiences, and others, for the most part, have said that they're the most horrifying experience. But I always said, thing about people would have these horrible experiences or very positive experiences where they were given information. Other ones, that didn't have good experiences were, tested on and probed and things like that. But when you look at it, as a whole, it's like we're kind of taught that, we have to give our permission for anybody to do anything to us. So if they take it, we don't know if they're, trying to make cures for us. We don't know what exactly they're using it for. Are they using it for hybrids to, create another race, to help their own race? Who knows exactly, what it is that they're doing and what, the concept is out there. But I've always said, with these contactees and abductees, even though the ones that they have bad experiences, they bring them back. So if they were really these horrible, beings, and they really wanted to, they wouldn't have to bring them back. They could just take you and never return you. And also if they wanted to come in, and obviously, as you said, they've got a lot of technology that's way beyond ours. They're not going to give us all of their technology, all of their stuff. There's just no way. And if they wanted to come and attack us, why wouldn't they have done it already?
I believe that, they have the capacity. If they want to show up in force, they can. But I don't think they will. They don't want to panic anybody. They want to, when they get ready to integrate, it will be gradual. Like I said, they have their ambassadors here. They have people that are like them walking the earth right now. When the right time comes, all the ambassadors will be contacted, and we'll say, hey, there's going to meet us here in Central. Say, for example, meet us in Central Park, or meet us, in this area where it's open, where a ship can, land and sit there, and all the ambassadors will be around there. That way the military won't come in and try to take over all at once, and then it'll happen so fast that they won't have time. And of course, the media will be there, and the military is not going to be able to cover it up. And then the ambassadors will be there talking with the aliens and telling people what's going on.
Right. We just had actually another question in chat, and it's from Rick, and he says, have you or anyone else heard about the end of 2015 or beginning of 2016 that a whole load of ships will arrive and take the enlightened ones to safety?
Haven't heard a word about it.
Okay, so, with the interaction that you have had with the alien being that you have, have you so obviously you haven't been told anything like that.
No. Mm-mm.
And I think that you might be right. I think that it would make more sense for them to increase the amount of sightings, get people kind of more acclimated to this, and kind of changing their minds, because we are humans, and we're very analytical. We're all about proof, and so if we have our own personal experiences, that's going to, kind of trump anything we've been taught or told to believe, because that's not going to be our reality. That's not going to be, what we experience. And I think that for many of us, that do go through these experiences, and that is kind of, why we are who we are, So do you think that, it's more of like a conditioning thing? Because I was really surprised when I saw on mainstream media, because, most of the stuff you see on mainstream media is pretty, you can't believe most of it anyway. But I had saw where, they were actually, I forgot what, Renee, maybe you can, or Willie, you can remember what country it was, that they actually had got together and appointed an ambassador to alien races. And, it wasn't here in the United States, obviously, and they wanted to kind of poo-poo it away, but, it like kind of hit the internet and it went viral, and people were like, oh my gosh, it's like, here these other countries are releasing all these, files on, their own studies into UFOs, and there were top secret things are being leaked and released, and there are other countries that are joining in, so the proof is really kind of already out there all in our faces.
Yeah, I think it was somebody from Japan, I think. If I remember correctly, it was a woman that they're saying that she's going to be an ambassador to speak to the extraterrestrial that they're going to try to go through. But, to add to what you were saying about the whole it being gradual, we're slightly being fed a little more information, and the sightings are starting to increase more. To me,
and more people are looking up.
Yeah, and the thing is that it has to be done that way rather than it being a huge mothership over a large city, because then that automatically creates a panic. You've got to get them acclimated, get used to seeing this happening, and notice that, well, they haven't attacked us yet. They haven't done this yet, so maybe they're not. They start to figure out themselves. You got to learn to get acclimated to, this first contact program that we're this is basically what it is. It's all part of first contact, just to get used to the idea that there's other beings out here that they've been here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I can't understand is that, here, even just on our own Earth, we have so many different races of beings, of humans. There's different people who look different from us. Their faces are different, their skin color is different, hair color is different, eye color is different. Why is it so foreign to us that we could, think that there couldn't be anything else out there? We've got, humans, we've got animals, we've got birds, we've got all these strange things, but yet our brains can't wrap our mind around the fact that there could actually, be something outside of us. Like, we're just the only ones. Like, that makes me feel like we are so infantile still, even with all of the information that we already have. I mean, Willie, why do you think that, it's like that? Do you think that it's religion is what we're taught? Do you think that our children or our grandchildren, do you think, they're going to grow up being much more open to the idea of the paranormal and to UFOs and alien races?
I think so. Used to, you would say maybe one shot of a UFO, but now you're seeing fleets show up, and in broad daylight you've seen more than one. They want to make sure that you actually get a good look at them. Heck, they're flying alongside of our jet planes now, and a lot of people now are coming to me, and their spiritual side is starting to open up, and their energies are starting to open up, and they're even quite a few times they've brought their kids to me just to explain to the kids what's going on with them, with their abilities starting to open up. So I think as the generations go along, their psychic abilities are going to be even more prominent, and they're going to be able to do more things.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% that. I mean, we see that, so much, on the paranormal side. I mean, we see people all the time, and I mean, I mentor children as well, and I think it's so important, to let them understand, not be afraid, not, have to go through what, like stuff that I had to go through, that people, that didn't have any of this stuff. When we went to school, when we watched TV, everything was drilled into your head that there is no such thing as aliens, there's no such thing as UFOs, and there's sure as heck isn't any, real life spirit. So now it is a much different time. I mean, our TV and news and internet really drives now what we believe, because we just want to believe whatever we see. But I think that also on a good side, it is conditioning children to say, why couldn't there be, UFOs? I saw something, somebody else saw something. And so maybe now with all of the people coming forward that are having this experience, all these things, maybe this is the shift to really open this up, which is really changing all this, because there's so many people that, again, I'll always say this, people with psychic abilities are not special. We all have psychic abilities, rather we are connected with them and can control them and understand them is a whole other story. But, many people are going through this kind of shift, and they are activating. They're getting very strong, and it's things that are happening that cannot be explained away. Now, do you think that the energy and the psychic abilities and the opening up of all these things, do you think that has a direct connection, with kind of with the aliens, because it is kind of more that direction, I feel?
I think, the alien part of it is spiritual too.
Yes.
They come in and out of dimensions. Spirits come in and out of dimensions. So it's all together. You take like when I was a kid, what we had to have for school was a cigar box and pencils and crayons, and that's it. But nowadays, right, these kids, when they go to school, they gotta have access to a computer. And, yep, they got to know how to use it. So that technology, has been through the years, has been introduced by more than just, progress with us. I mean, it's been introduced by, I believe, an extraterrestrial influence too.
So now that they're giving us more technology, things like that, they're also wanting us to, teach our children more about this. I mean, our children are much smarter. I'm telling you, it's like I have never felt as old as I did the other day when my 3-year-old granddaughter came to my house, and she knew how to run my computer and my phone better than I did. They can get on and they can go through this stuff like, it's amazing what they can absorb. And you're right, because my daughter, she's, 20 now, but I remember like when she was like in about 4th or 5th grade, like I had to go and get like the scientific calculator for her. Not, when I was in school, we just had the regular old calculator. Now you had to have a scientific one, that you can do algebra and geometry, like calculus on it. And I'm like, wow, by the time the kids get out of high school now, the mathematical skills that they require are way more advanced than they ever were with us. I think that when I had to, and this tells my age for sure, when I had to take my, test to get out of high school, I remember that you just went in and you just had to, be able to pass the basic, reading, writing, arithmetic, and I guess those were the 3 R's, I guess. But you had, and then your English language. So you had not as many things that you had to, learn. And now, oh my gosh, like, I'm shocked at how so educated, these children are. And we are getting a lot more children, too, and their parents that are becoming much more spiritual, much more connected. I've seen children and adults, that are meditating and, know about, cleansing their auras and, opening their chakras. And it's like, wow, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So do you think that we're on the right track? Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, that's what they're trying. The extraterrestrials is trying to bring forth. That knowledge and the spirituality and all that. I mean, I think that's why I was contacted at an early age. I mean, I was told, things were going on. My dad and mom never did know about the alien part of it, but they did know about the spiritual part of it. And my dad, when I told him that I was starting to see and hear spirits and things were coming to me, I mean, he started the training in with me with that right there. As the native part of it, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Oh, that is so amazing, because I think that if we had more parents like that, you know, we would be in a much different place right now. Because, again,
when I told him about seeing spirits, I mean, it didn't shock him. As a matter of fact, you know, I wrote about this in my book. He would take me to funeral homes, and he would, you know, take me up to people that, you know, I remember one time he took me to the butcher. The butcher died, and we went to see him at the funeral home, and he took me right up to the casket, and he says, "Look, you know, that's a container, and the spirit's gone." And I said, "Yeah, Dad, if the spirit's gone, why is he standing over in a corner?" And he looked over there, and he told me, he said, "Well, sometimes, son, and a lot of times they have to be in consecrated grounds so they can move on. So this will be that time that, you know, he's waiting for, you know, his body to be taken to the cemetery and prayed over, and then he can move on." So he would teach me about stuff like that.
Oh, I think that's so awesome, because part of, you know, when I mentor these children is it's not just that I mentor the children. I mean, I educate the parents, too, because I'm not their parent. They're the ones that need to continuously encourage their children, educate them. It can't be all on my shoulders. And it's amazing, you know, that when you're, you know, telling everybody this and you're talking to them, they're explaining all this stuff, I mean, they're just so attentive. It's just like they can't get enough information. It's amazing. And I really wish that it was like that, because, again, I didn't have it like that. So for me, it was a much different experience. And for many, you know, many people can't talk about it. And for many who know me, too, growing up, we moved around a lot, and then I was in foster care from almost 12 on until I aged out. But the one thing is that every time we would move, you know, I was always one of those kids that would lay on the ground and on the grass and like watch the clouds go by, or, you know, lay and look at the stars, and I would always, you know, see this orb of light, you know, that would be up in the sky, and it would, you know, be there. I never had any recollection of being abducted or contacted or anything like that, but I would always see it the night that we would move in, and I'd never see it again until the next time I moved. And the fact that I had the psychic abilities, you know, I didn't know anything that these were even, you know, considered psychic abilities, because nobody told me. Everybody just told me that I was lying. It didn't exist, and it didn't happen, and you know, all this kind of stuff. So you kind of just get quiet. But again, that's interesting that you could open up about being able to see spirits, because your dad was very open about that. But yet you didn't share the UFO side of it. And was it because your father didn't believe in UFOs and aliens, or just from what you felt like you shouldn't talk to him, or what was that about?
Well, you know, the time I was like 10 years old when I was having my experiences, and I didn't know exactly how to talk to him about that. I do know this: my dad loved science fiction. He loved to watch Star Trek and things like that, and the old science fiction movies with flying saucers in and stuff. And you know, thinking back, you know, my dad might have been an abductee and just didn't tell me, you know, and this was going on, and I found out in later years that, you know, a lot of times this happens to families that, you know, in generations they were abductees. So thinking back, I'm pretty sure that Dad had his experience too, and he never told me nothing about it. But as I was, you know, going to him about seeing spirits, and, you know, he would take me to funeral homes and things like that, the very first spirit I ever saw and came in contact with, the lady next door was ill, and my mom would go next door and take, you know, do her laundry and do yard work and things like that, and she got to know Mom really, really well, and she liked us kids too. So one day, she sent word by my mom to my dad that she wanted to talk to him. So he went over and talked to her and came back over, and he was telling Mom what she said, that if they would take care of her until she died, that we could have her house, and we needed to move in with her because she was getting sicker and she needed somebody to take care of her. So we went on ahead and moved next door, moved all of her stuff out of our house over into her house, and about 6 months later, I came home from school, and my mom was kind of crying a little bit. I said, well, what's the matter? She said, Miss Beck wants to see you in her room. So I went on ahead and went in her room, and she was laying there on the bed, and she was kind of staring up the ceiling. And she said, come over here, Willie, I want to talk to you a minute. And I went over to the bed, and she says, give me your hand. And I gave her my hand, and she kind of looked at me and smiled, and then all of a sudden she kind of grinned. She says, oh, my God. And she grabbed my hand, and she put a death grip on me, and she died. And I screamed. I said, Mom, and she come running in there, and she had a hold of my hand, and my mom tried to get, her hand from clenching mine, and she couldn't do it. She said, don't panic. She said, I'm going to call Dad. So she went in to call my dad, and about 20 minutes later, he come in from work. He come into the room, and he saw what had happened. He seen her laying there dead, clutching me. And so he walked over. He said, son, just be still. And so he got her hand unclutched from mine. He said, now I want you to go in the other room with the other kids. I have my brothers and sisters in the other room. He said, go in and lock the door, and don't come out until I tell you. So we went in there, and I went in there with my brothers and sisters, and we were looking at the window, and we saw the police come, and we saw the coroner come, and finally we saw the hearse come, and we saw him take the body out and all that. And after all that happened, he come in and said, well, Miss Beck is crossed over. She's passed away. And he said, now this is our house. And so he looked at me, and he said, you okay? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to go someplace with me tomorrow. I said, okay. So the next day, I got up and with him, and he said, we're going to go for a walk. So him and my mom and me, we walked to the nearest funeral home, which was 6 blocks away. We walked in there and to the funeral home, just me and my mom and dad, and he said, I want you to sit right here, and I'll be right back. So I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know at the time he was making arrangements for her funeral. So I was sitting there, and I wrote about this in my book, too, and I heard an organ playing. And I get up and go into where I heard an organ playing. There was a lady sitting there playing the organ. She looks over, smiles to me, and motions to come over. So I go over to her, and she's sitting there playing. She had silver hair, and she had a nice blue dress on, and she's smiling at me. She says, how are you, Willie? And I said, how'd you know my name? She says, I know who you are. She says, I've been watching you all your life. And she's playing, and all of a sudden, I said, what are you doing in here, son? And I turned around. I said, tell him to say. He said, what lady? And I turned back around. There was nobody there. I'm standing up beside an organ with nobody there. So,
right.
I went back, and he said, come on. He said, we're done here. So I went back, and with him, went home. And, of course, a couple of days later, they had the funeral. And, of course, we didn't go to the funeral. He didn't let any of us go to the funeral, neither me. So him and my mom went to the funeral and did what they had to do. And then about 2 weeks later, I'm laying in bed, and I'm looking. This was about 9 o'clock at night. We just got in bed. And all of a sudden, I felt this tug at my foot. And then I looked down, and there stood Miss Beck. And I sat up in the bed, and she was smiling at me, and she kind of walked over, and she kind of nodded her head like, and I can feel, what she was trying to convey to me. She's like, thank you for being with me when I died. I didn't die alone. And when I felt that going on, she kind of faded away. So when that happened, I kind of screamed out. My dad come running in the room. He said, what happened? And I said, I saw Miss Beck. And he said, come with me. And he jerked me up out of bed, and he goes in there and said, now, what did you see? I said, well, she shook my, I was laying in the bed, and she shook my feet, and there she was. And I said, I understand. That's what happened. He said, son, I know it. He said, I saw her walk through the house, too. So that was my very first ghost that I saw.
Wow.
And the lady, now there's another story about the lady at the organ, and so about 6 months went by, and I'm sitting in the front room, and I hear singing. This guy was singing Bring Me in the Sheaves, and I looked around in the room, wasn't nobody in there but me. So I go in the kitchen, I said, Mom, somebody's singing in the front room. There's nobody there, and I can't see who it was. And she said, something's going to happen, son. You wait and see. So about 2 hours later, the phone rings, and it was a phone call from my aunt saying that my uncle had died. And it was about that time that I heard the singing that he died. So a couple of days later, we just said Dad's going to go to the funeral. So he took me. He got my sweater from the rest of my brothers and sisters, and he took me and my mother. We got on a train and went to my uncle's funeral. I had never met my uncle because he was estranged from my mom. So we got there, and we get to a place where they lived at. My other uncle picked us up from the train station. We went out to the farm where my uncle had just lived, and I met my Aunt Jean for the very first time, and it was just a regular farm, and I was kind of bored because they were all sitting there talking about the funeral and all that. And I asked Dad, I said, can I go outside and play? He said, sure, son, go outside and take a look around. I went outside, and I was looking around. I seen this guy standing over by a tree, and he motions to me, and I walk over to him, and he looks down at me and says, tell your Aunt Jean to give your mother a package that your Uncle George left for her. And I looked at him, I said, okay. So I go back in the house, and I tell Aunt Jean, I said, Aunt Jean, did Uncle George leave a package for my mom? And she looked at me, and she says, how did you know that? I said, I didn't know what to say. I said, I just don't know. I said, there was a guy outside that said for me to come in and give you the message. And she said, yeah. And she went in and brought my mom back a package, and my mom opened it up, and it was a picture in a real nice frame, and my mom looked at it, and she started crying. And I walked over to Mom and said, why are you crying? She said, look, this is your grandmother. It's the only picture ever taken to her. And I looked at that picture, and it was the woman that I saw playing the organ.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, it was my grandmother. So, yeah. And
that is so awesome.
So we all got in the car and we went to the funeral home to see Uncle George. And when we got to the funeral home, I went in there, and in those days, in this particular funeral home, it was somebody's house that they converted their front room into a funeral home. So walked up to the coffin and looked into the coffin. There laid the guy that was standing beside the tree. It was my Uncle George.
Wow. I mean, I think that is just so interesting because, again, I had so many experiences growing up too, and again, I wish that I would have been able to be a time where it was like with you, where you could talk to people, because I felt so alone. I mean, it was like having to live a double life. If you wanted to fit in, you couldn't talk about this kind of stuff. And even when I would try to, I was always encountered with such negativity about it, like people would be afraid of me or not want to be friends with me, things like that, But, I mean, stories like this are absolutely amazing, and they happen, all the time. And so you did say that you thought that your father may have been, contacted himself. And
yeah, because just by the way he acted, he like I said, he loved science fiction shows. He would read science fiction stories, and I didn't think anything of it up until the time the thing started happening to me. I guess I really should have told him about it, but I think at the time he was dealing with the spiritual side of it with me and trying to get me ready for, taking care of managing the gifts that I had and what was going to happen in the future. And I think he kind of knew what was going to happen to me later on down the line. So all this happened to me when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. So within a 2-year period, I had went from, the extraterrestrials to starting to see spirits to, talking to them and singing, relaying messages and things like that, which I didn't know I was doing, but I was, I just did what he told me to. I mean, and when I saw them, they were solid. I mean, they weren't your average ghost that you can look through. I mean, it was just like I'm meeting somebody on the street, and it was a solid person. So that's happened to me many times. And I wrote about all these adventures in the Shaman Windwalker book that I wrote. I mean, people can learn from the book, as well as people that's read said, well, that you couldn't have possibly have gone through all that. I said, I have gone through all that, and I'm still going through it.
Yeah, and the thing is, and it still doesn't stop. And I mean, it's one of the things that's kind of almost like a double whammy, because, not only do you have, spirits that are coming to you for help, but you also are having contact and, abductions at the same time, all going on at the same time. And this has been, for you, like you said, 50 years. But it does, to me, it seems like, you have learned so much, which I think is important. I think that's a big part of us being here.
Well, Christina, I always thought that wherever we moved to, we lived in a haunted house, but when I began to learn about these things, and then I learned that I was the one that the spirits were following. I mean, the house wouldn't have anything to do with it. They would follow me. I would have different spirits show up. And, there's a couple of times we actually did live in a haunted house, but most of the time they followed me. And it's just like with the extraterrestrials. We just moved here where we're at now 3 months ago, and we wasn't here 2 weeks. And the next thing I knew, there was a bright light in the room. I mean, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the whole room was lit up. It was like, hey, we found you. We know you're here.
Wow.
We know you moved. Don't worry. We know where you're at. So and then the light was gone.
And what about, your wife? Because I know that, she's had some health problems along the way. Like I said, we've been friends for a while. It looks like you guys are both doing, well now, so that's great. But, how is it on her to, have all these abductions and, not only on herself, but, you as well? Because, again, a lot of times people want to have to protect the other one, and you're kind of in a vulnerable situation because, like, we don't know how to make these things go away. Like, we can learn to get rid of, darker things. We know how to cross over spirits, but when it comes to the aliens, like, we really don't know, like, how to stop it. We can't, like, really make it stop, so you just kind of, it's going to be there forever.
Well, the last 2 years, the wife's been gone through a lot. I mean, she broke her back, she broke her arm, she broke her ankle, and she's had a couple of heart attacks, last year, which she's had to have 4 stents put in her heart. And just the other day, she said, well, something's not right. I said, well, what's the matter? She said, my navel hurts. And sure enough, there was like a blueness around her navel that shouldn't have been there. She said, my stomach hurts. It's almost like they came and took me and kind of examined me. And I said, I don't put it past them, because there's so much that's happened to you in the last 2 years that they just come and see what was going on. And we talked to each other. If they're going to do this, why don't they do stuff to help us, to help us get well? I said, that I can't, I don't understand it either. I mean, it's, her and me both. I mean, I have got really bad back, bad knees, glaucoma, got bronchitis. I mean, but shamans, go through a lot of that stuff because our body is put under a lot of stress with the spiritual stuff that we have to do. And of course, I'm with the paranormal clergy, and there's a lot of times that I've had to go up against some things that was really nasty, and that takes a lot out of you, too. So we're both pretty well beat up, but we're surviving. But, yeah, they come, and they do the same thing with her. If there's a procedure done, they no doubt in my mind, they come and check her out, too, because there's no doubt in my mind she's got an implant, too. So, like I said, back in 99 when I had that really bad surgery, they come get me. I mean, they actually came. I had everything that, if I've had surgery, they come and check it out. If I'm sick, they know, I can feel them here. I can feel the vibration in my ear that there's a ship around. I can hear the humming sound. you know, and when I do that, I can, especially if it's nighttime, I can go out and open up the door and look up, no matter where I'm at, and I could see a little ball of light dance around, and they're letting me know that they're around. And I've actually, people that know me and have actually read my book, they're kind of afraid to come around, especially at nighttime, because they don't know what's going to show up. They don't know if a spirit's going to show up or an alien or what.
Wow. Well, Renee, you have some questions, I'm sure. I know you're in chat, so
Yeah, I'm always in chat. It's amazing too, because I do the same thing as far as we see any kind of communication like you do, and I get the buzzing sounds and so forth. And a lot of times I could sit out there, and even when we do our sky watches too, I can sense that they're there, and know exactly when they pop up. I know when doorways and stuff would actually open up as well too. It's a matter of having that good solid connection, and you have that kind of relationship with them, and how they can help you, to help others to carry on the, their message, and how we can best help each other, because it's all part of that whole waking shift. Once upon a time, and I know you know this, Willie, that a lot of the Native Americans and a lot of other natives in other lands had that connection before. And so if it hadn't been for the Spanish Inquisition and everything else, and they're pushing, the religions on people, and that's when things started to decline as far as having that connection.
So maybe it would have been a lot different if it was...
Yeah, it would have been totally different, because everything was about nature. Everything was about having a connection with Earth and also in sky. They had this constant communication. That's why we had so many different structures that, ancient structures are around. There's a bunch of them that were underwater now. They had a complete civilization here.
Yeah. Well, when we look at, even in the pyramids and even in the caves and, drawings and stuff, we see all of these different types of flying vehicles, I believe, it's kind of like once they started, like, training us to believe exactly what they said, was going on, all these things. We lost all of that and just kind of, moved forward and moved on. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what happened when I don't sleep for a few days. You guys were talking about, like opening portals and something, and that was another thing that I actually ran across, an article, I think on NASAspace.com or something site, where they were talking about, like, they know now that these, like, portals and wormholes open around us all the time. And so now they're saying, yeah, it would be like a straight shot through to somewhere else. And they open and close. So they are, there's windows of time that they can go in and out and have to know that. And I think that's pretty interesting because, again, I know I always talk about this, but it's like we're getting ready to, like, go into the movie of Star Trek, because if you remember in, Star Trek, they were going to all these different, planets and helping and patrolling and doing all this stuff, but at the one time they came, back to Earth. And, here they came down and it was completely foreign. They looked like us, but, it was like a much earlier time. And, so much that what we saw on Star Trek, which was about, all of this, we now have is an actual reality. They have their warp speed. They had wormholes. They had, all these different things that we now know are actual technology and things that we do have.
Right.
And you think that, my opinion is that, a lot of this was created around things that we already knew, the government already knew existed. And, it's just kind of, again, to put it out there and kind of, condition you, but just tell you this is science fiction, so this is just made-up stuff for entertainment. But I get a lot of people that I talk to you, and they say the same thing. Oh my gosh, it's interesting that this is happening because, wasn't that an episode in Star Trek? Like, yeah, I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that type of stuff resurfaces every now and then, even, the original series and then Next Generation, and, of course, many of its reincarnation of Star Trek. So, yeah, it definitely has been playing a major role of all that, too. So, I love Star Trek.
Well, what's your opinion on that? I mean, did you grow up watching Star Trek or ever become a fan of Star Trek?
I didn't become a fan until years later.
No, I was talking, not talking to William, but, I mean...
Oh, yeah, I used to watch it. I used to watch it every Friday night,
Yeah?
Yep.
Wow.
And
good.
My favorite old-time movie with the day the Earth is still the original version. To me, that's the best ever made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everything is so blown out of proportion now, and again, I think that it's good that now we're getting more movies that are coming out about, or not even movies, but documentaries that are coming out about all this stuff. But then in contrast, we've seen a very, very big increase in movies that were about the paranormal and about alien attacks and UFOs and things like that. More so, I think, than any years in the past. I mean, it's very interesting how, again, they are kind of slowly conditioning the public for all of this. So, I mean, I guess if you start paying attention to it.
I saw a documentary this morning on Billy Meyer, the guy that's over in Switzerland. They've been visiting him since the early 60s, and he's been taking all kinds of photographs and things like that, and he's been aboard ships, and he's gone forward in time and backward in time, and he's given, messages from the people from the Pleiades, and he showed drawings of the people he's met, and they come pretty close to what some of the people I've met, too.
Gotcha. Oh, we had about 20 minutes still, but before we even do anything else, I'd like to give you an opportunity to be able to, and at the end of the show we'll do it again, but I'd like for you to be able to give out, any information of if people want to get a hold of you, contact you, what kind of services you offer, stuff like that.
Oh, they can get a hold of me on Facebook, Willie Gibson, and I've got a webpage, www.shamanwindwalker.com. They can get a hold of me that way. I've got books out on Amazon. One is the Shaman Windwalker that has some of the stories I've told tonight, even more. And then the Soul Warriors book is on Amazon.com too. It also has talks about alien contact in there, and some murder cases that I've worked, and different spirits that I've talked to, and some teachings in there too, and of course, like I said, they can get me at my website, and of course, they can contact me through the Paranormal Clergy. That's www.paranormalclergy.com, and here in town here in Louisville, I've got the Soul Warriors Supernatural team. If we only take the worst of the worst cases, I mean, you're not going to see us roaming around in an abandoned hospital or an old jail or something looking for spirits. I mean, we don't have to do that. We're called out if we actually are needed. Our help is needed. I have other shamans, and I've even got a priest, Bishop James Long, I work with too.
Yeah.
So
great guy.
They can get hold of me that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that's actually a great team. I know about the Paranormal Clergy, and again, know about all the work that you guys do, and that is, I think that it's good that we do need teams like that. That are experienced teams that are helping these people and really taking the worst of the worst, because you're seeing a lot of people in the paranormal field right now who are taking on, what they may, think to be is demonic cases, and don't have a clue of what they're doing and even what they're going up against. very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and we're usually called in to clean up the mess when they start. I mean, I've got teams that go out there to check out an investigation. If they do run into something nasty, they have enough sense to come and contact the clergy about it, and rather than trying to take it on themselves. And it's the same thing with the extraterrestrial thing. I've actually had people, come to me and give me a call and say, Willie, this has happened to me, that's happened to me. What do you think is going on? And usually it's an alien contact. I mean, they describe an abduction. They described needles and things like that, whether they think it's a dream and it's a spirit or a succubus or an incubus attacking them. But a lot of the times they've been actually contacted or abducted by extraterrestrials, and I'm so thankful it wasn't a demon. So it was an alien instead of a demon. I've had that happen, and I've actually had people bring their kids to me and said, she or he's starting to see things and hear things in their room, and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'll sit down and talk with a child, and there's been a couple of times that they've actually had alien contact too. So I have to determine what's going on with them. So a lot of it's counseling too, and knowing what you're dealing with at the time, and whether you're dealing with an alien or a spirit or a leaky faucet that's making all kinds.
I want to ask you because of the fact that your team, both of your soul warders as well as your paranormal clergy group, you guys do take on some of the worst, cases. And, are you seeing an increase in actual, demonic activity or possessions, things like that? Because most investigators, unless you've, really, really been in this field a long time and you've just really come across some really strange stuff, are usually pretty uniform of saying that they don't have too many, prior to maybe 10 years ago, they didn't have too many demonic cases or things that they could really consider serious. Do you guys stay busy and, are you seeing an increase?
In the last 30 years since I came out and doing this as a shaman, I can count on one hand, the actual diabolical cases that we'll run into. That's how few they are. A lot of people, you seem to think every time they go out it's a demonic case. It's not the case at all. People don't realize when they really run into a demonic case, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different, you're working with different energies. A lot of cases that I've worked, the spirit is actually trying to make the people think they're a demon, but they're really not. They'll fill out a demon name, and people don't realize when you're doing this kind of work, demons don't throw their names around. If you go into a diabolical case, it's something that you've got to work at to get the names revealed to where you can actually get the case solved. If you work a case and a demon starts throwing out their name, it's not a demonic case. It's just an entity that's trying to fool you, and that's happened many, many, many times that I've dealt with. And a real demonic case, you get the smell is different. You've got furniture being thrown around. You've got people's bodies that are, they really. It's hard to describe, and I don't want to do it on the radio. And
right.
It's a whole different thing. You got to know what you're looking for. That's why a lot of times the Bishop Long, he's got classes that he teaches on this, especially to different paranormal teams, to what to look for and what to do and what not to do. And basically, if you run into a diabolical case that's really nasty, don't take on it. Don't take it on. You just back off and present your evidence to the paranormal clergy, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. And, I think that's one of the best things about the paranormal field is, within my groups, through my shows, speaking at conferences, being at events, I meet some amazing people, just like you. And, we're able to meet, and if there is something, say, that did come on that was something we thought was demonic, the first thing that we do is we do contact somebody who can take care of this. We had a situation one time where the land that the house was on was actually, like a battlefield of where the, Maidu Indians and the settlers had come together when they were, going through the area, and they had a bloody massacre up there. And, I went up there, and the first thing I saw when I got out of the car was, this property just riddled, with people on it. And I'm just like, what in the world, is going on? And, we ended up finding out that was going on. We brought a shaman, and they, did a land cleansing, Native American land cleansing and stuff like that. It worked great. But, people have to understand their limits of what their knowledge is. And we've seen an increase of paranormal investigators in this field, and as well, ufology. But you don't really find, ufologists saying that they're going out searching for aliens and they get abducted. But you hear all the time about somebody who has learned about being a paranormal investigator by watching a television show, and then they go out and they start provoking, and they encounter something that's not nice at all, and can follow them home. I mean, can attack them, all these things. And like you said, everything is not demonic. And I will tell you that the same thing with me. I have only had a very small few amount of cases that I thought it was anything, serious enough where I had to bring other people in. So, but, you take on something like that and you fail, you're going to end up, the investigators end up being the client, our clients. Right. And then they're asking us for help. So, now, you do a lot of readings, right? For people?
I do animal totems, things of that nature. When I'm called as a shaman, it's usually something going on with the land, the property. They've disturbed something. They've run across a burial ground, or they've taken something out of a burial site or something like that, or they built a home on top of a Native American burial ground or something like that. And as far as the shaman part of it, that's mainly what I do when I'm called out. But yeah, I do native totem animals. That's kind of like tarot, but it's kind of not. It's just my focus point on when I give the reading. But I really work with their spirit guides.
Got you. Okay, yeah, I think that there's all different ways that people communicate, because again, people think that I consider us just people with abilities. Society has given us this title of psychics, but the sad part about that is, all of us seem to have different strengths, different types of abilities, and even the ones that have the same abilities, there are differences to them. So, everybody reads things, differently. And I think that it's a good, good variety. I enjoy working with a lot of different people because I've learned so much over the years. And I think that when you stop learning, that's when you need to get out of the field, if you think you know everything. Definitely don't. But we have a question from Catherine King, and she wants to know, have you seen any of Charles Hall's interviews about his experiences with the tall whites?
Who?
Charles Hall, his interview about his experiences with the tall whites.
No, I haven't seen anything about him.
Okay. Now, did you have any experiences with the tall whites?
The ones that the ones that I've dealt with are I guess you would call the Palladians. They're kind of tall, white hair. They wear light clothes. They're kind of, like I said, they're friendly. They're very etheric, I would say. But that's the only ones that I can relate to that I've actually seen. Of course, the small blue-grays I've dealt with. Of course, the spiritual part of it, I've dealt with just about all of it, the spiritual part of it, including elementals. So a lot of people say, well, have you ever run into Bigfoot? No, but that's not to say I'm not going to in the future, the way things go with me.
Right, absolutely. I think, if you go out there looking, again, we are at a time where we are starting to, capture more things on video and, even for Bigfoot, the cameras that they put out there in the woods and all these things. And they're, putting out some very interesting video. Even when they thought, they were calling, the whole Chupacabra, and then they said, oh, it doesn't exist. And then, all of a sudden the police officers, dash cam picks out this really weird thing going across. And then somebody eventually, after all these years, finally got one in a trap. And, all these different things, you get all these pictures of and whatever they're going to call it, the fact that they have captured quite a few of them, we're just realizing maybe it's a different, just another species that hadn't been, found out. Now, with Bigfoot, do you think that, we are capturing them on, like I said, these trap cameras, but the thing that they're not doing is they're not able to bring home any bodies. These Bigfoot always seem to be able to get away. Now, do you think that, it's just because they just know their environment that well and they can get out of the area? Or do you actually think that there's portals like where they can go through and get out?
I think they got portals. I also know that they can blend in with the scenery almost to be invisible. It's just like, my wife and I, we talk about this all the time. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. It's just like, you're invading somebody's home, going out looking for them. It's just like if I decide to go out and go for a walk in the woods, and, I seem to attract stuff like aliens and spirits. There's no doubt in my mind if a Bigfoot's in the area, they're going to show up and I'm going to see one, or that's going to come right up to me. And I've actually had people come to me and say, look, you've got this kind of energy. If you go out Bigfoot hunting with us, we know that they're going to come. We're going to see something. I said, yeah, you probably will, but why do I want to do that and bother them? If they don't bother me, I don't bother them. I don't go out looking for trouble, but if trouble finds me, I can take care of it. That's what I keep telling people. I'm not going to go out looking for demons. I'm not going to go out looking for spirits. I don't have to. As far as spirits goes, they find me. And as far as demons go, if somebody's got a problem, a very serious problem, and they can show me that that's what's going on, and I go into that. I've gone into a situation with people, and I've gone into situations alone. And the ones that I've handled alone, I barely got out of with my life. So I have got to be very, very careful when I walk into those situations. But when I do walk into them, I'll stay until the job is done. So you're not going to see me go out looking for Bigfoot, unless a friend comes along and says, "Hey, let's go." I got a feeling that if you do this, you might find out something or something like that. Then I'll go, but I'm not going to go searching for them because they're not bothering me, and I'm not going to go bothering them.
Right. It's very interesting you had said that, because when I went to Justin Sneha's release of his Bigfoot shooting movie, one of the interesting things that he was talking to me about was the fact that I was a psychic, and I wanted to do another show on this, and so he had invited me to go out to the actual kill site. He said, I've gone out there multiple times since this happened, and when I've gone out there, they have come down and, I've seen them. And, for me it was very interesting that his story and how it all happened, but he wanted me to come out there. But as I started talking to some of his friends, it was more about, he said, I'd really think it'd be cool to have a psychic come out and, see if you can connect with them psychically, or if they'll be, drawn to you or something like that. And then I started hearing some of his friends talk about, we could, then be able to, shoot one, and then we'd finally be able to prove to the world that they exist. And I felt the exact same way you did. I do, and I have gone out on actually Bigfoot investigations. I've been up in Oregon, I've been out in Washington, up in the High Sierras. So I've been in areas where I've done, gone on these, and no, we really never got anything significant or anything. But I do absolutely believe that they're out there, and I think that that's the reason why we don't have any bodies. But again, it definitely, I think, could happen.
Well, if I really wanted to do that, and I know a couple other people that that are investigators, and a friend of mine has actually gone, and he's a country western singer, and he goes out. He plays music, and he said they've actually come up and watched him play music, and he's actually seen them. All you would have to do is just sit down, grab a fire, and just wait for them. You don't have to go running in the woods and yelling and grunting and going on like the guys and finding Bigfoot. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And they don't realize that the Bigfoot are intelligent creatures. They're standing there laughing at them.
Watching you. Right, watching them.
Cool.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that that's exactly the way it is, too. And, do I believe that, there have been some that Justin shot? I did find him, when I was around him, to be very credible. I think that, whatever he shot, scared the hell out of him, and he took off because he thought that he might be accused of murder. And, when he came back and kind of rethought it, and, decided, let's go back so we can prove this, because this is going to sound crazy, it wasn't there. And I could definitely see, where other ones, if there were other ones in the area, would come and, remove them and take them wherever they go. But, I mean, again, everyone has never been caught. And even when they do capture them on film, it's just like, boom, 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 they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're quite big to be able to just, disappear.
You look at, like Willie says, that they're very intelligent creatures, and they can tell if they're being hunted. So you have these guys going, looking for Bigfoot. Well, they can sense that, that their lives are in danger. They're going to remain hidden. If you're there, like you said, playing music or having that intent that you're not going to harm them, you can give them their space, they're more likely able to come out. Because if I even seen a Bigfoot, I'm not going to tell them where I saw them. Let them be.
Right, and I think you remember, Renee, after I came back from, talking to Justin, and he wanted, us to be able to go out there with them. And my concern was, I would hate to go out there and one, be drawn to me and drawn to my energy, and then something happen and it be killed. I would never forgive myself. I mean, so I chose not to go, but we're definitely going to be going up into the mountains here soon. I've got a friend, Rick Rowe, out of Lake Tahoe, California, that is a paranormal investigator and a ufologist as well as a cryptozoologist. And he's been on many Bigfoot investigations and has, gotten some very, very interesting things. But again, he's not out there trying to make fame for himself. I mean, he does this, he puts it on the internet, and that's it. He truly loves this field and cannot get enough of trying to help to capture evidence and explain to non-believers, or people that are struggling, with what's going on around them, and make them be able to realize that, okay, this stuff can, exist.
Yeah.
But, wow, we were able to talk about aliens, UFOs, and the beyond tonight. We're pretty good.
Hey, that's really good.
The whole spectrum. In 2 hours. I can't say too much more than that. We've got about a minute left. So once again, you want to give out your information, Willie, and then we'll put it up on the website as well.
Billy Gibson at on Facebook, and I'm at www.channelwindwalker.com.
All right, everybody. Next week we are going to have another abductee that is coming out, and this is going to be her first time. She's giving us her very exclusive interview. It's going to be Leah Watterson from Australia, so make sure you check us out.
I know Leah.
New DPM Network, and check us out on our Facebook. Make sure to like us. You have any questions or comments or suggestions for us for shows coming up, or if you have a experience you'd like to share, make sure to check us out and contact us through Facebook. We'll see you, everybody, next week, and have a great night. Thanks again, Willie, so much for coming, and Renee for being here, too.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.